Welcome to another episode of the Bartenders Brewers Guild. This month's sampling, a Diamondback Spring. It's an Amber Sierra. This is something we prepared just to get ready for spring training and opening day. We are not affiliated with the Arizona Diamondbacks, but we are supporters, and we did go down to the ballpark to catch a game. To get started, make sure you have all the things you need, including sterile, non-powdered gloves. You will need to maintain a sterile, sanitized environment. Otherwise, you'll get obscure flavors in there. In order to help with this, we have sanitizing solution. I'll go over in more detail how to use that later. Use caution. This is a caustic item. Keep out of reach of children. You will need a sanitizing bucket. A regular 5-gallon bucket from the hardware store should suffice. Clean one. You will need a brewing vessel, something to cook your beer in. We use a tamale steamer. You will need a fermenting vessel, complete with airlock. Preferably one with a pour spout for easy racking of said beer later on. Make sure it's nice and clean. You don't need a tough tank 9-gallon like this. You could use a 6-gallon bucket if you so desired. Make sure you have a slotted stirring spoon. You are going to need a hydrometer. For this brew, our target specific gravity was going to end at 1.01 through 1.014. We have some caps left over from our last brew. For this brew, we're going to need 8 ounces of raw malted barley, 8 ounces of Belgian biscuit, 8 ounces German Carapils, and 8 ounces of Belgian Caraviene. We're also going to need 4 ounces of U.S. malted red wheat and 3 ounces of United Kingdom roasted barley. Here I have 6 pounds of malt extract, 4 pounds of which are pale liquid malt extract, and 2 pounds of amber liquid malt extract, available from our good friends at the Brewers Connection. You're going to need 1 ounce of Cascade hops. We'll put this in the last 10 minutes of the boil, and 1 ounce of Chinook hops at the beginning of the boil. You'll need 1 teaspoon of brew salt at the very beginning of the boil, and 1 teaspoon of Irish moss at the end. You'll need a grain bag for holding the grains during the steeping process, which we'll go into in just a few moments. Basically, what you're going to do is take all of your grains and put it into this bag and tie it off. Don't worry, it'll fit. We'll show you. Before you begin, make sure you have everything gathered up in one nice place. Here we have the fermenting vessel, sanitizing bucket, sterile gloves, the main grains, the secondary bag of grains, the steeping bag into which you will place your grains. Again, I'll show you how in just a moment. You'll want your liquid malt extract available, your Cascade hops, and your Chinook hops. Again, getting everything organized at the beginning will make it easier during the process itself. You'll want your brew salt and your Irish moss. Bottling caps for later on, but I had them here, so I filmed them. Your brewing vessel, in this case again, a tamale steamer. And your slotted stirring spoon. What else? There's a couple other things. You're going to want, of course, your hydrometer, and naturally your sanitizing solution. Again, this is caustic. Keep out of reach of children. It's basically a bottle of iodine. I'm sure there's some proprietary blends therein of this bottle. I didn't look that closely. But basically what you're going to do when you get started is 1 tablespoon of sanitizing solution to 5 gallons of water. The yeast we're going to use is a wet yeast, that is to say, You smack the bag, and it opens up a capsule inside that is filled with yeast that is active yeast cultures and begins to feed on what is in the bag. Over the course of about an hour, it'll expand out, and that's when you open it up and put it into your brew. To start, prepare your sanitizing bucket. 1 tablespoon of the iodine solution to 5 gallons of water. And you're going to want to sanitize everything you're going to use throughout the brewing process. For example, I pour a little bit into my actual brewing vessel. I pour a little bit into my fermenting vessel. And then both of them I'll top off, seal them up real tight, and give them a real thorough shake, a real hard shake all the way throughout to make sure it's nice and sanitized. Both of these have already been cleaned through a restaurant-style, a restaurant-grade commercial cleaner. But you could just as easily do it at your home in a sink, soap and water, etc. Make sure it's nice and clean, rinse dry, then sanitize. To begin the actual brewing process, you're going to want to start with 2 gallons of filtered purified water. Doesn't matter which brand you want to use, we just grabbed what was convenient for us. Once you get the 2 gallons in there and turn on the heat, you want to sanitize your brew salt. That is the white salt powder there. They usually come in this pack. We divide it up and then insert the one, or add the one to the water. So there's your brew salt. And you begin heating the water to a boil. 160 degrees Fahrenheit is our target temperature. While we're doing that, we're going to prepare our grain steeping bag. I'm going to start with a small bag, sanitize the secondary grains, and put it into the steeping bag. Here, Brewmaster Eddie gives me a hand. He is not wearing a glove, but I assure you his hands are thoroughly washed and clean. Now we'll do the main bag of grains. Get sanitized. Cut open with sanitized scissors and put into the steeping bag. You might have to work it a little bit. It might feel like you're not going to have quite enough space, but I assure you it will stretch and all of it will fit. Here we just use the gravity drop technique. Shake, shake, shake. The grains kind of fall in there, and then I'm slowly pulling up the sides of the bag to stretch it out over the grains. And yes, it may take some work, but once you get it all in there, it's a little heavy, but it's not too heavy. You can handle it, but don't be surprised. Tighten it up at the top. Get enough space to work with. Normally I wouldn't twist like this. Normally there's more space up there, but I needed to do that to make sure I had enough to tie off my knot. So I get my knot going. There's my knot. Now I'm ready to go. So there's your steeping bag. By the time you get that prepared, the water should be pretty close to 160 degrees. You do not want to put the steeping bag in at 165. That's a little bit too hot. So once it got to 160, 162, we killed the heat and added the steeping bag. Once you put the bag in there, in fact, once you put anything in there that isn't also hot, it will drastically reduce the temperature of the water almost right away. So while that's reducing the temperature, you just want to let it sit there. The heat will gradually reduce down. Once it gets down to about 152 to 154 degrees Fahrenheit, that's where you're going to want to be. Here you can kind of see slightly the color of the barley coming out and like tea, steeping out into the water. There's a nice good little puff of it coming out. So you want to stir occasionally with the pot uncovered for approximately 10 minutes at this 152 to 154 degree Fahrenheit temperature. At the end of that, you want to prepare a cup of hot water. Now this measuring cup has also been sterilized, or rather sanitized, I should say. There is a difference. I'm not going to get into it here. But you take out this cup of water, you prepare it, stick it in the microwave for about a minute, pull out your steeping bag, and you might be tempted to squeeze the bag, but you don't want to squeeze it. All right, that's going to cause a little bit of problems. You'll probably get some darker flavors in there. So let it drain naturally. Again, you're going to be tempted to squeeze, but don't do that. Just let it drain naturally, and then take that cup of hot water, or maybe 2 cups, depending on what you're in the mood for. Rinse the bag, and just let the last of the flavors that are going to come out of that steeping come out. Okay? So once you've done that, it's time to add the malt extract. Again, you want to sanitize the liquid container, because these containers are out in the open and various microbials might attach themselves to it. So with the heat still off, you want to add the liquid malt extract and stir. Now, it'll take a while for the extract to come out of the jar because it is a sticky, gooey mess. As you can see here, I'm ribbiting it in all over, trying to spread it out as much as possible. But there's so much goodness left in that jar that what I end up doing is taking the lid from the tamale steamer and positioning things in such a way that, propping up the jar, that it'll drain in there, and I let it drain in there for a couple minutes while I go and look over my recipe and make sure it's correct. Make sure we're doing everything the right way. Make sure you sanitize your slotted stirring spoon. And this is a no-rinse sanitizer, so you don't have to sanitize and then rinse it with purified water. But once your spoon's nice and sanitized and your malt extract is completely drained into the vessel, you can stir it. Now you want to turn the heat on at this point and begin to bring it up to a slow boil. Some might call it a simmer, but you'll see in a moment. I'll show you some pictures. It's a nice churning boil. I think I might have been able to edit this one a little bit shorter, but you know what? That's an extra 10 seconds. Okay, so you're stirring and you're stirring. Bring it to a boil. This is the color it's going to look like at this point, with all of the extract and the barley in there. And this is just before it begins to get hot. Now, it started to boil. I didn't get a good picture of it, but it has started to boil. When it begins to boil, sanitize the Chinook hops. This is the first hop, 1 ounce, and you add it and stir it and start a timer. The total time is going to be 60 minutes. But for this phase, for the next 50 minutes, you're going to be stirring occasionally on a calm boil with just that 1 package of hops. Okay? Let me see. I think I have a nice picture of the slow boil here in just a moment. And again, I think I probably could have cut this clip down a little bit, maybe take 10-15 seconds off of it. And maybe I still will. If you hear this and you still see me stirring, then I didn't. But if you don't hear this, you don't hear this, and I did. So there. Ha! Okay, here is a good picture of the calm boil. And as I say, some people might call this a simmer. I would see why. But this is the kind of boil you're looking for. See, it's not causing too much foaming up on top. The hops are still kind of settled there, but you're good to go. You do that for 50 minutes. 50 minutes later, you're going to sanitize your Cascade hops. And just as before, add them to the slow boiling brew. And you're going to stir. And this time you're going to do it for 10 minutes. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, you're also going to add the Irish moss. That dark brown leafy material. That'll come. What this does, what Irish moss does, is help clarify or give the beer a clearer color. So you add that at the last 10 minutes as well. During these last 10 minutes, you want to stir occasionally, just like before. Then you're almost there. You want to prepare the fermenting vessel at this time. with 3 gallons of cold water. We like to use ice because it brings the temperature down faster. But lately we've gone with the solution where we use, instead of 2 bags of ice and a gallon of water, what we've decided to do now is, the last time we did it, we did 1 bag of ice and 2 gallons of water. I think next time we're just going to get 3 gallons of water like before, put them in the refrigerator so they're nice and cold overnight, and that'll help bring the temperature down without shocking it all the way down to like a 60 degree. Anyways, you want to pour your brew after the hour into your fermenting vessel and add in 3 more gallons. Essentially top off to 5 gallons worth of liquid in your vessel. You want to make sure everything's stirred and incorporated nicely, especially if you used ice. You want to make sure it's all melted. And you want to double check the temperature. For our particular brew, we wanted to keep a temperature between 68 degrees and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So here Brewmaster Eddie double checks the temperature with his digital probe. I believe he calls it the thermocoupler. And we got the good temperature. Once at that temperature, you want to add the yeast as prepared and take a hydrometer reading. We didn't show the hydrometer reading. It's just I forgot to, I think I hit pause instead of record. So we took a gravity. It was at 1.06. You attach the top, attach your airlock, and a week later, you optionally can rack off into a bottling bucket. 2 weeks later, for sure, rack off into a bottling bucket. Make sure your gravity is where you need it to be, 1.01 to 1.014 in our case. Once you've done that, you bottle, cap the bottles, let them sit for about a week, chill and enjoy as you see fit. And that's the Diamondback Spring that we made specifically for opening day Arizona Diamondbacks baseball. Look forward to more coming from us soon. Well, we just started a chocolate stout. Hopefully it'll be ready in time for St. Patrick's Day. So that was the theme for this next one. I should put that video out here probably the week of St. Patrick's Day. So you should see that. All right, my friends, stay tuned for more. If you'd like to see some more from the Bartenders Brewers Guild, please subscribe. Please give a thumbs up. And please comment below that you want to see more from the Bartenders Brewers Guild. If you have a suggestion or a request for a beer over the summer, we have a couple months that we haven't decided what we want to see or what we want to brew. By all means, leave a comment below and let us know. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great weekend.